So we're recording a podcast today, and part of that means that we need to get rid of this setup, which I spent a lot of time putting together so that we can have the room to record our podcast episode. So the nice thing about having these kinds of desks is that they're on wheels, so I can just move them around and adjust my setup pretty easily. This tripod is also on wheels, which is great, and my recommendation is if you can get anything on wheels, you definitely should. All right, so this is pretty much what we're dealing with here. Check it out. So we have our Rode podcasting setup right here. 2 podcasts, so we got, I'm going to be on this side and Billy will be on the other side. We have the main camera, which is right here. That's going to be shooting us straight on. Then we have the A7S3, which is going to be shooting me, and this is running on a 50 millimeter. This one is running on a 16 to 35, but I have it set to 20 mils right now. This one's going to be shooting Beely, and this one's on a 35 millimeter. I'm going to get dressed. I'm going to actually dress up and we're going to shoot some podcasts. We might do 3 episodes today. That's kind of tough, but we always batch the episodes because they're a lot of work and they're a lot of time to set up. If you're going to set up, might as well just set up once, record the content for the entire month. We might do 3 if we keep them short today. So let's see how much time we have. All right, so we finished recording 1 episode. It actually took us a little bit longer than we thought. Definitely doing these takes a lot of energy out of you. Yeah. It's tough. All right, guys, so it's the next day. Yesterday, we were just beat. We spent 4 hours recording 3 podcast episodes, and I was just done. So I basically want to have a conversation with you and talk to you about some of the reasons why I've grown to hate my agency. And funny enough, I joined an inner circle about 3 weeks ago, and one of the assignments was to go onto the Facebook group, do a Facebook Live, and introducing myself. And on that video, I said that I hated my agency, and I was in this inner circle to do something about it. Funny enough, someone that had been following me for quite some time saw my video and kind of freaked out a little bit. So he ended up reaching out to me asking if we could talk to see why I felt this way. And so that's why I'm deciding to do a video about it, because I feel that a lot of the times we see people that have done really well in their career. Everything looks great from the other side, but in reality, there's a lot of things and complexities that are involved in growing a business that is that big, and it's things that everybody goes through. I want to share with you why it got this stressful and some of the realizations that I had, and hopefully I can save you the trouble of having to deal with any of this stuff as well. And maybe you can relate with some of these things. So I'm going to be vulnerable and I'm going to share with you some stuff, and I would appreciate it if you felt the same way. If you had any issues, please comment below. And so number 1 is that we were overcomplicating our agency, and you hear this all the time: simple scales, fancy fails. And so essentially the way that manifested in our business was that when we first created an agency, and this is just the entire industry in general, it was all about generating leads. That's one problem we're solving. But then as agencies evolved and more agencies came into the market, we had to diversify, we had to see how we were going to be competitive, and we also wanted to help our clients, right? We understood that generating leads for our clients was not enough. We had to solve them with the next problem, which is, well, how can we get these leads to schedule and actually show up to their appointment? So again, that's another problem that you're solving, which is another complexity, right? And then once we evolved again, we said, how can we help our patients actually close these people? Now we're generating the leads, we're getting them to show up. How do we get them to start buying? And then we started bringing on coaches, we started bringing on sales trainers, then created a whole training program. So that's a whole nother problem in itself. And I think we all started with the best of intentions, right? We wanted to provide more value for our clients, and we wanted to help them solve these problems. And we kind of became a jack of all trades, but a master of none. And I think one of the mistakes that we did was that when we started adding these other services, we didn't actually charge for them. We added them as a value add to increase our competitive advantage. And I mean, we already know this, right? What people don't pay for, they don't value it. And so our clients didn't really value it as much. And then on top of that, I think if we would have charged for it, the market would have told us that they would have not wanted to pay for it, meaning that there's no product market fit. Interestingly enough, enough, I previously had a conversation with someone who was doing $1 to $2 million every single month in their agency. They're in the solar space. And one of the things that really stood out about how he runs his agency was that he only generates leads for clients. He doesn't do anything else. If they want high level, if they want sales training or something along those lines, I think maybe he does have some side products for it, but he doesn't really push them. And it was really interesting to me that he was still able to be very competitive in the marketplace just by solving one problem, and that was just generating leads. And I think we were great at generating leads. I think that's, our bread and butter, but we weren't great at, training the staff on how to call the leads and get them scheduled. That wasn't our forte. And getting leads to schedule and then show up, that as an agency, that is not our responsibility. That is the responsibility of the client. If he can't get people to show up to business, that's on them. That's not on us. And so overcomplicating your agency ultimately leads to having a multitude of problems down the line. And part of business is that you're trying to solve problems before they happen. But the reality is that when you have so many moving pieces at the same time, it becomes very difficult for you to even foresee what's going to happen. And then all you end up doing is just putting out fires at the end of the day. So number 2 is that we try to force feed clients things that they didn't want to do. And I briefly talked about this in my previous point where I said we were trying to help them with the scheduling problem. We were trying to help them with the sales problem. And all that meant that we had to create CRM. We had to set it up for them. We had to train them. So all of these things are layers of complexity that this software is at one point or another going to fail. It's going to have a bug. There's going to be an issue, right? And then you take all this time to set up these accounts and then clients leave 30 days later. So it's like, how much time and effort did you put in solving that problem when the client didn't really even care about it in the first place? For example, we asked our clients to call back the lead. We asked them to text the lead. We asked them to go into the CRM and update the CRM every single week. Well, guess what? They weren't doing it. We were telling clients, hey, we have this sales training going on, like join the sales training, watch these training videos. They don't watch them. And so one of the realizations was, why am I trying to get clients to do something they don't want to do? I'm just spinning my wheels at this point. If they don't want it, then it means that the problem around that is not deep enough for them, and therefore they don't want a solution, meaning I shouldn't create a business around that because there is no demand for that specific product. Either that or they don't want that specific product from me. And that's a realization that I had to have. That's why at this point, we're looking at what are all the things that we can remove from our agency, and I'll talk about that at the very end. Okay, number 3, another realization that I had is that I'm not a dentist, I'm a marketer. And I think part of what we were doing in regards to creating this agency is that we became more of we tried to become, I should say, a consulting agency. But the reality is that where do I come off? And this is an ego thing. Where do I come off trying to coach these clients into doing the things that I want them to do and that they should be doing when I'm not even a dentist? Like, I'm an agency owner. I have not given them any reason to trust me or to do the things that I say. Now, yes, I do know general business best practices, and those are things that any business can benefit from, and that's what we were teaching them. But I realized that they don't want to hear that from me because in their minds, I'm just a marketer, okay? I am not whatever profession they are. And a really good example of this was that we would have clients on some coaching calls and my team would tell them what to do. They wouldn't do it. I would get on the call and tell them what to do. And they would kind of listen a little bit, but they still wouldn't do it. And then my client coach comes on, who is the same professional as the person they're speaking to. And they tell them what to do, which is the same thing that we said. And they're like, okay, yeah, let's do it. Right? And so we would get so upset and we would get so mad about like, why isn't this client listening to what we're saying? Why aren't they doing it? It's the best thing for them. It's in their best interest. Why am I spinning my wheels? Why am I getting so upset? They didn't hire me for consulting. They hired me to market their business. That's another realization that I had that really just helped me just feel better about the situation. And I shouldn't be offering something that they don't want. So realization number 4 is that guarantees draw in unsuccessful business people. This is really big, really passionate about this because I've done it both ways. The way we grew Everbowl was brand-based. We never ran a guarantee. But as we joined other programs and we started learning a little bit more about what other people were doing, everybody started talking about guarantees and we needed
to do it. And honestly, I think at the time for me, I said, you know what? I already built an agency this way. I'm willing to try anything else. And it was more of an experiment just to kind of see what happens. So we built Engage around a guarantee, right? We said, hey, get 20 shows within 60 days. If not, get your money back, right? Or we'll give you this. And so there was a risk reversal there attached to a guarantee. We grew very, very fast. That definitely helped us grow, but we also had a lot of clients that were just not good at what they were doing. It doesn't matter how good marketing is. If sales isn't there, then it's not going to work, and vice versa. And so we drew in a lot of clients that just inherently were not great at running a business. And the truth is that marketing cannot solve your business problem. All we're going to do is reveal your business problems. And think about any big business. And I mean, a good example is just like Walmart, right? Like Walmart doesn't advertise money back refunds, right? They advertise the product, and then in the back end, if they don't like it or whatever, they can say, hey, here's our guarantee, here's warranty, here's a refund if you don't like the product. But they don't lead with that in the ad. And so inherently, you're drawing in people that already have business problems and they haven't been able to solve them themselves. And when things go wrong, guess who they're gonna blame? You, right? So that was a big one. Realization number 5 is that I had to stop comparing myself to Alex Hormozi. And so I think if you're in the space, like if you listen to Hormozi, you just can't help but compare yourself to him. We tried to create the gym launch, which was Alex Hormozi's licensing business. We tried to create the version of that, but for these other industries. And I've heard multiple people say that, oh, I'm going to create the gym launch of karate, right? I'm going to create the gym launch of chiropractors, of dentistry, of orthodontists. What is interesting is that Hormozi never built a marketing. He built a coaching company. He even says this himself in his interviews. If you watch them, he says Gym Launch was a licensing company. We sold a license of how to run a business to other gym owners. And essentially he created a coaching program, right? And so what's great about a coaching program is that there's very minimal overhead because you're just getting people to consume content. It's like, how else did this guy make $38 million a year in a single year by having this agency? No, he didn't. The agency, he didn't even start doing that till years later. And so I'm over here trying to be a marketing agency. And if I want to make those kinds of numbers, the amount of complexity and of people that we would need to hire and the systems and processes that we would have would be insane. We would have an agency of 100 people, maybe even more. Stop comparing yourself to Hormozi. The other thing about Hormozi was that he was a gym owner, so he was great at selling gyms and getting gyms to follow his program. Again, I'm not a dentist. I'm not a med spa owner. And so go make whatever it is that you want to make and be great at that. Find your own way. So realization number 6 is that I actually started, I mean, I guess it's not really much of a realization. It was more of a feeling that I started to have, which was I started feeling really bad for my account managers because on our calls, they would just talk to us about how this client just went off on them and was really rude and disrespectful. And now they're having this issue and that issue, and they have to be putting out these fires all the time. And I told my business partner, I was like, man, we should be paying for these guys' therapy. That's just how crazy it was. And I felt genuinely really bad for them. And the main reasons why those problems were being caused in the first place was, again, because all of these complexities that we added into the business. And so we said, if we just remove these complexities, that would make the lives of our account managers and the expectations that we set for our clients completely different. And so all of this stuff is new things that I'm learning thanks to a few coaches that I've been working with. The inner circle that I joined was some Jeff Miller. And so if that's something that you're interested in, and what I'm basically going to be doing now is kind of following a model that he's teaching, and we're kind of adjusting it to kind of fit what we're trying to accomplish. The sum of it, that has been, I think, one of the biggest things. And so the big life lesson for me is that we try to overcomplicate our agency when in reality we shouldn't. We should focus on solving one specific problem and solving that problem really, really, really well. And so I'm just going to give you a quick example of the things that we are removing from our agency, and maybe that'll spark some ideas, because I understand that a lot of the times we say, oh, you're overcomplicating it, but a lot of times we don't really know what we're overcomplicating. And so I'm going to just list off all the things that we're removing from our agency. So leads that schedule but don't show up to the appointment, that's not my problem. That's the client's problem. Leads show up but don't buy. Again, that's not my problem. That's the client's problem. If a client can't sell, that's on them, not on the agency. Think about it. All we're doing is grabbing their product and price and we're putting it on the marketplace. Think of Amazon, right? If I'm an Amazon vendor and I'm selling cat food, well, there's obviously a ton of other vendors that are selling cat food. If my product doesn't sell, do I go and blame Amazon? No, because there's this other guy that's also selling cat food and he's selling it at $5 and I'm selling it for $7. So it's not Amazon's fault. It's just that I don't have a competitive product. I haven't given people a reason why they should choose my product versus other competitors' product, and I don't have a better price. At the end of the day, we are Amazon. All we're doing is getting their product and their price, and we're putting it in front of the marketplace, and then the marketplace will decide if it's good or not. The problem is that usually clients tend to think that it's our fault, when in reality, all depends on them. But the problem is that we've set the expectation that it's our fault. And so then they blame us because we set that expectation, which is not their fault. It's actually our fault. We need to take responsibility for that. Clients don't want us to use their list. Like we would send reactivation campaigns. So if a client doesn't want to give us their list, why are we forcing them to do that? Instead, I'm not going to ask them to do that, and we're not going to do that. Clients don't want to give us appointment slots. So we would actually book people on clients' appointments and we would ask them to give us more appointment slots. They don't want to do that. They don't want to deal with the calendar. So we're removing that entirely. We're not booking people on our client's calendar. Clients don't update the leads. So again, we had a CRM. We would ask our clients to go and update the leads. I'm just not going to ask them to do that, period. That's it. We're just generating leads. We're generating qualified prospects. Like that's all we're doing. Clients don't want to change their pricing. Well, again, that's on them. That's not on us. If they don't want to have a competitive price, that's on them. That's their prerogative. They don't want to update the CRM. I'm removing the CRM entirely. They don't want coaching. We're not going to offer coaching anymore. They don't want to watch the video training on sales and client management. I'm not even going to provide that to begin with. We were turning down a lot of clients because non-compete. Now what we're trying to do, instead of becoming a consultancy, we're trying to productize our service as much as possible. And therefore, we're not going to offer a non-compete. Clients don't want to call to reschedule the leads. Again, that's on them. That's not on us. Oh my God, and here's a big one. Client's fan page gets disabled. Their account gets disabled. Well, we're not going to mess with that. We're going to create our own brand and we're just going to advertise people using that brand. And that way, if we remove that layer of complexity. So the idea for us is that we get a client, we can onboard them and set them up within 30 minutes. We can deliver within 48 hours and then just keep them on the reoccurring. If you found this information insightful, please leave a comment below as to which point resonated with you the most. And I'd love to hear your feedback. Again, this is my journey. This is where I'm at right now. These are some of the realizations I've had. And if I can help you avoid any of these mistakes that we made along the way, then I think it was worth it. So thank you. Have a good one. We'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.